What happened when an undercover CEO walked into her own spa center pretending to be a trainee? Well, she expected to fold towels and observe quietly, but instead she uncovered a toxic work culture built on fear, disrespect, and silence. Hey there, amazing listeners. You've got great taste for being here today. This emotional and eye-opening story will take you behind the scenes of a wellness spa hiding a painful truth, and show you how one bold decision sparked a transformation no one saw coming. Buckle up, because what started as a secret mission turned into a powerful wake-up call. Sienna Clarke sat in her office at the headquarters of Tranquil Touch Massage and Wellness, rereading a customer review that made her stomach turn. I tried to pay for my massage with coins, and the receptionist laughed at me, told me, "We're not running a charity for penny-pinching spa hoppers." I left humiliated and in tears. The words stung. Sienna had built her spa chain from the ground up, starting with one cozy location where every client, regardless of background, felt safe, respected, and cared for. Now, over a decade later, with 12 locations across the state, it felt like that founding spirit had slipped through her fingers. She'd been receiving more complaints lately about cold treatment, overbooked therapists, mismanaged appointments, but this one was different. It wasn't just poor service, it was cruelty. And worse, it happened at Branch 6, a quiet suburban location that used to be one of her favorites. Sienna had trusted regional managers in quarterly reports to keep her informed, but clearly, something was falling through the cracks. "No more blind trust," she muttered under her breath, setting the review down. She picked up the phone and called her assistant, Jade Monroe. "I need to go in," she said, "not as myself, as someone new." Jade didn't need an explanation. Disguise? Everything. New name, new background, trainee-level certification. Within an hour, Jade had already begun assembling the paperwork and outfit, a modest uniform, borrowed credentials, temporary license. Sienna would pose as Sophie, a fresh graduate from a massage program looking for hands-on experience. She knew it wouldn't be glamorous. She'd clean sheets, haul oils, maybe even scrub floors. But if she was going to find out what was truly happening in her company, she had to start from the bottom. As she folded the review and slid it into her desk drawer, Sienna felt a mix of dread and determination settle in her chest. This wasn't just a mystery to solve. It was a test of whether the heart of her business still beat the way it used to. And if it didn't, she'd revive it with her own two hands. The next morning, Sienna transformed into someone unrecognizable. Gone were the polished heels and designer blazers. In their place were soft-soled work shoes, a wrinkle-prone cotton uniform, a loosely tied ponytail, and a pair of oversized glasses that slightly slid down her nose. As Sophie, she stepped through the frosted glass doors of Tranquil Touch Branch 6 with a tote bag slung over one shoulder and a rehearsed, nervous smile. The spa was quiet, but not in the calming, meditative way it should have been. Instead, there was a tense undercurrent in the air. The front desk attendant barely looked up, focused instead on quickly folding towels with stiff fingers. The soft music was off, the diffuser was dry, and the plants by the window looked droopy and neglected. This wasn't just a bad day, this was a chronic atmosphere. Before she could announce herself, a therapist emerged from one of the treatment rooms. "You the new girl?" she asked, her voice low but kind. She introduced herself as Holly Bennett, a senior massage therapist who'd been there for years. Holly offered a tight smile and a quick glance toward the back office. "Just keep your head down and stay out of Rick's way," she added in a near whisper. That was Sienna's first time hearing the manager's name, and she didn't have to wait long to meet him. Moments later, Rick Delgado emerged from the back, his posture wide and his voice louder than necessary. He barked orders about linen shortages and snapped at the receptionist for double booking a client. When he finally turned to Sienna, he barely gave her a glance. "New hire? Great. Holly, train her. I don't have time for babysitting." With that, he disappeared again. Holly sighed and gestured for Sienna to follow her. As they passed through the halls, Sienna took everything in: the peeling paint in the break room, the cluttered supply closet, and the staff who moved like shadows. Efficient, but muted. She met Noah, a young therapist with gentle energy and a quiet demeanor, who smiled and offered her help setting up a room. Yet even in that moment, when Rick passed by, the change in Noah's body language was immediate. Shoulders tense, eyes downcast. Sienna felt a knot tighten in her chest. This spa, which should have radiated healing and peace, was soaked in unease, and it was only her first hour. She hadn't seen everything yet, but she had already seen enough to know this place was sick, and she was here to diagnose it from the inside out. Sienna followed Holly through the winding halls of the spa, shadowing her through a packed schedule of back-to-back appointments. She assisted with prep work, refilling oils, organizing hot stones, sanitizing rooms, and used every moment to watch, listen, and absorb. It didn't take long for her to notice just how deeply the dysfunction ran. One therapist in particular caught her eye. Noah Reyes, the young man she met earlier, worked with a calm focus that stood out. His touch was gentle, his communication with clients respectful and intuitive. Despite his talent, every interaction with Rick seemed to leave him visibly shaken. During a quick transition between sessions, Noah accidentally bumped into Rick in the hallway. "Watch it, sunshine," Rick sneered. "You gonna trip and cry in a client's lap next?" Noah muttered an apology and ducked his head, while Rick walked off laughing to himself. Sienna bit her tongue, heart pounding. The hostility wasn't subtle. It was practiced, sharp, and deliberate. Later, in the break room, she found Liam, the teen spa attendant, crouched near the washer, frantically scrubbing oil stains from a towel. When she offered to help, he flinched at first, then admitted, "If I don't get it spotless, Rick says he's docking my hours again." Sienna said nothing but mentally logged every moment. Even Holly, the experienced therapist, carried tension in her jaw and shoulders. Her movements were efficient but joyless. "I used to love it here," she confided between clients. "Now, we're all just trying not to be the next target." As the day progressed, Sienna noticed the physical environment echoing the emotional one. Burned-out scent diffusers, chipped tile in the hallway, and supply orders missing essential items. At one point, a client requested eucalyptus oil, and Holly whispered, "We ran out last week. Rick said it was too expensive to restock." The heart of the spa, the little details that once made it feel like a sanctuary, had been neglected. But the worst came late in the afternoon. Sienna returned from helping a client to find Noah missing from the hallway. She eventually located him in the break room, back to the wall, hands in his hair, silent tears streaking down his face. She approached gently. "Hey," she said softly. "You okay?" He quickly wiped his eyes. "I'm fine. Just needed a minute." But he wasn't fine, and Sienna knew it. The cracks weren't just in the operations, they were in the people, and the damage was far deeper than she'd feared. The following day began with a jarring reminder of everything wrong at Branch 6. Sienna, still undercover as Sophie, arrived early to assist with opening procedures. As she stepped inside, she witnessed Rick at the front desk, scolding a middle-aged client who had arrived 10 minutes late. "We run a business, not a playground," he snapped, voice loud enough to turn heads. The woman's face flushed with embarrassment as she apologized and tried to explain a traffic delay. Rick waved her off with a huff and stomped toward the back, muttering insults under his breath. Sienna clenched her jaw. No professionalism, no empathy, just ego. She spent the rest of the morning moving between rooms, refilling lotions and greeting early appointments, but her mind was elsewhere, calculating, observing. Everything confirmed what she had suspected. This wasn't just a personality clash. This was a branch infected by a manager who led through fear and manipulation. In the supply room, while restocking clean linens, Sienna overheard Rick on the phone, speaking with someone from another location. "I told them. Cut hours, squeeze productivity. If they can't handle it, they're not cut out for this," he laughed, adding, "Honestly, I've had more success when they're scared of me." The words chilled her to the core. This wasn't careless oversight, this was intentional cruelty. Later that afternoon, she quietly asked Holly about staff turnover. Holly sighed. "We've lost 4 therapists and 2 attendants in the past 2 months. Burnout mostly. Or fear. No one says it, but we're all just surviving him." That night, as Sienna walked past the empty reception area, she looked around the spa that once radiated peace and healing. Now it felt hollow, like a ghost of what it was meant to be. She stepped outside into the fading light and called Jade. "Meet me at Branch 6 tomorrow morning," she said. "Bring the file. I'm going in as myself." There was a pause, then Jade replied, Understood. Sienna hung up and took a long breath. This wasn't just about one mistreated client or an emotional breakdown in the staff room. This was about the soul of her business, and she was ready to confront the rot at its source. The next morning, Tranquil Touch Branch 6 felt no different at first. Therapists prepped rooms in silence, the air heavy with the same tension that had hung there for weeks, maybe months. But this time, everything was about to change. At precisely 8:45, the front door opened and in walks Sienna Clarke. Not Sophie the assistant therapist, but Sienna, the founder and CEO, radiating calm authority in a crisp blazer and heels that clicked purposefully on the tiled floor. Right behind her was Jade Monroe, clutching a leather folder and tablet, ready to document everything. Holly, who had just set down a stack of hot towels, froze. Noah, working at the front station, nearly dropped his pen. A few other employees peeked out from treatment rooms, eyes wide. Only one person was missing from view, Rick. Sienna turned to Holly and asked calmly, "Is he in the back?" Holly nodded, still processing the shock. Without another word, Sienna headed straight for the supply room. She pushed through the door and found Rick crouched by a shelf of aromatherapy oils, scribbling on an inventory sheet. "Didn't I tell you to—" he began, not even looking up, but then he saw her. The clipboard slipped slightly from his hand. "Miss Clarke?" he stammered. "Didn't expect to see you here." Sienna crossed her arms. "That's the point. I don't announce visits. I want to see how things run when no one's pretending." Rick chuckled nervously. "If I'd known you were coming—" "You'd have put on a show," Sienna interrupted. "But I've already seen everything I needed." Her voice was steady, but her eyes didn't flinch. The cruelty to clients, the disrespect to staff, the manipulation, the toxic fear in every hallway of this spa. "This place is broken, Rick, and you broke it." He opened his mouth, but she kept going. "You made Noah cry in a storage closet. You humiliated a paying client. You cut inventory corners and lied about shortages. You drove good people out of a place that was supposed to heal." Rick's mask slipped for just a second. "They're soft," he muttered defensively. "If they can't handle pressure—" "That's not pressure," Sienna snapped. "That's abuse, and—" "You're finished here." Rick blinked. "You're firing me?" "I should have done it weeks ago." Without waiting for a response, Sienna turned and walked out of the room, past stunned employees who had heard every word. She paused in the lobby and addressed them all. "Rick is no longer with this branch, and starting today, this spa gets a fresh start." The room fell into an uncanny stillness after Sienna's announcement. No one spoke. For a moment, even the ambient waterfall track playing softly in the background seemed to fade. Staff members stood frozen, Noah by the front desk, Holly near the towel warmer, Liam half hidden in the hallway holding a basket of robes. It was as if the entire team was waiting to exhale. Then, like a ripple breaking across still water, the tension began to dissolve. Noah's shoulders eased slightly, a quiet breath escaping his lips. Holly blinked hard, as though suppressing tears. Liam peeked out from behind the corner, eyes wide with disbelief. Sienna let the silence settle before she continued, her tone gentler now. "This place was meant to be a sanctuary, for our clients and for all of you. Somewhere along the way, that promise got lost. But today, we started fixing that." She turned to Jade, who was already tapping notes into her tablet. "We'll be conducting a full review. Everything from staffing to scheduling to pay discrepancies. We're not just replacing a manager, we're restoring a culture." Then Sienna looked at Holly. "I need someone I can trust to help hold the line while we search for a new branch manager. That person is you." Holly's eyes widened. "Me? You've been the steady presence holding this place together. I've seen it firsthand. You don't need a title to lead, but I'd like you to have one." After a beat, Holly gave a small nod. "I'll do my best." Sienna turned next to Noah. "How long have you been here?" "Almost a year," he replied, clearly surprised to be addressed directly. "You've stayed through the worst of it." "That takes more strength than most people realize." Noah looked down, his voice quiet. "I didn't want to quit, I just didn't know how much longer I could do it." "From now on," Sienna said firmly, "if you ever feel like that again, you come to me. No one should feel trapped where they work." A few staff members exchanged glances, some with cautious hope, others with raw relief. Something had shifted. For the first time in a long while, the weight that had hung over Branch 6 had begun to lift, and in its place, something fragile but powerful began to grow: trust. By early afternoon, the shift in atmosphere at Branch 6 was unmistakable. Though the spa still carried the faint weight of uncertainty, the staff moved with a newfound sense of purpose. The tension had not vanished overnight, but it had cracked. Replaced by cautious optimism, Sienna remained on site, not just as a figurehead but as a hands-on leader. She visited each room, spoke to every employee individually, and made it clear their voices mattered now. Jade set up a temporary workstation in the break room, opening a digital feedback form and inviting the team to speak freely. The stories poured in. Holly reported that team meetings had been quietly eliminated months ago. Rick said they were a waste of time, she explained. But we needed them, just to know what was going on. Liam, still anxious but emboldened by the morning's events, revealed that his hours had been cut without warning more than once. "Can't say I didn't earn weekends even though I never called out," he mumbled. One massage therapist described equipment that had gone unfixed for weeks: massage tables with wobbly legs, a broken steam towel cabinet, heating pads that no longer held temperature. "Clients noticed," she added. "We got used to apologizing a lot. Even more troubling were the financial concerns." Another therapist confided, "I think I've been underpaid for months. I stopped arguing because it never went anywhere." Jade took notes without judgment, promising audits and corrections. Sienna didn't flinch at any of it. She had asked for the truth, and now she had it. She gathered everyone in the lounge after the final morning appointment. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "First, scheduling is getting a full overhaul. No more favoritism. Hours will be assigned fairly, and nobody will be blindsided again. Second, we're auditing pay immediately. If you've been short, we're fixing it. Period. Third, we are hiring. No more running this place on skeleton crews. If you need help, you'll get it." Around the room, eyes widened, not with disbelief, but with cautious hope. Sienna continued, "And fourth, moving forward, if anything feels off, if leadership isn't listening, you come directly to me." A silence settled again, but this one felt different. Less like fear, more like the stillness that comes right before a deep breath. "This place is going to be what it was always meant to be," Sienna finished. "And you're all part of that rebuild." This time, the nods came without hesitation. The next morning brought the first real test of the new environment. Sienna had intentionally taken a step back, observing more than directing, wanting to see how the team would function without the shadow of fear hanging over them. Mid-morning, a challenge presented itself when a client at the front desk grew irritated over a pricing discrepancy on a service package. The client, a sharply dressed man with an impatient scowl, pointed at the brochure and raised his voice. "This says $110.00. You charged me $125.00. What kind of bait and swip operation is this?" Behind the desk, Noah stood with a clipboard in hand, his posture straighter than the day before, but the tension in his jaw revealed he hadn't forgotten the fear Rick had instilled. Still, he didn't flinch. "The brochure you're holding is outdated, sir," he explained calmly. "The price changed last month. I'd be happy to refund the difference or offer you an upgraded service at the new rate." The man scoffed. "So now I'm supposed to believe that's not just an excuse?" Sienna, watching from across the lobby, began walking over. But before she could step in, Noah met the client's eyes and said firmly, "I understand your frustration, and I'll fix it immediately. But I want you to know, we take transparency seriously. This was a printing issue, not an attempt to mislead." There was a brief silence. Then the client gave a reluctant nod. "Fine, just fix it." Noah processed the refund, offered a sincere apology, and handed back the receipt. As the man walked out, Sienna approached. "You handled that exactly the way I would have," she said quietly. Noah gave a small smile, equal parts proud and relieved. "I wasn't sure I could." "You didn't need me to," Sienna replied. "That's the point." While at the spa, other subtle changes had begun to blossom. Holly had started checking in personally with each team member before their shifts, and Liam was spotted joking with a client while folding towels. The cracks weren't fully healed, but the foundation was being rebuilt with something new: confidence. And for the first time in a long while, it wasn't fear keeping everyone on their toes, it was the shared desire to do things right. By the end of the week, Tranquil Touch, Branch 6 felt like a different place. While the spa still carried echoes of its past turmoil, they no longer defined the atmosphere. The team moved with a rhythm that was lighter, more collaborative. Sienna stood near the front window, watching Holly review the day's appointments with the junior therapist, while Liam cracked a quiet joke as he replaced clean towels on a shelf. Noah passed by with a clipboard in hand, checking inventory with quiet efficiency, a task Rick had never trusted him to do, now handled with ease. Jade approached with her tablet, reporting that all payroll discrepancies had been flagged and corrected, and I've started interviewing candidates for a permanent manager, she added. But honestly, they already have one in spirit. Sienna smiled. Let's make sure whoever we hire values people as much as procedures. Just then, Carly, a regular client, stepped out of her session, glowing. It feels like the old days again, she said warmly to Holly. Whatever changed, keep it going. The words stuck with Sienna. As she gathered the team for one final check-in, she addressed them with pride. This week proved something important, that you all deserved better long before now, and that healing this place wasn't just about clients, it was about you. The staff stood a little taller. We'll keep improving, she added, and if you ever feel like things are slipping again, my door stays open. As the team dispersed, Sienna lingered for a moment. The pain wasn't undone, but it had been acknowledged, and in its place stood something stronger: accountability, compassion, and a renewed sense of purpose. The spa wasn't just back on track. It was finally becoming what it was always meant to be, a place of true healing for everyone who walked through its doors. The story of Tranquil Touch, Branch 6, teaches a powerful lesson about leadership, accountability, and the human cost of neglect. Even the most well-intentioned companies can lose their way if they rely solely on reports and appearances, rather than staying connected to the lived experiences of their employees. Sienna Clarke's decision to go undercover revealed what no spreadsheet or quarterly summary could. A toxic culture can quietly take root when fear replaces trust and authority goes unchecked. The most important takeaway is that leadership is not about control. It's about empathy, presence, and action. By stepping into the shoes of her staff, Sienna rediscovered the true heartbeat of her business, the people. Real change doesn't come from firing one bad manager. It comes from listening, showing up, and rebuilding systems that empower, not exploit. Moreover, the story shows that it's never too late to course correct. Even in the aftermath of deep damage, trust can be restored when leaders lead with humility and consistency. Healing a broken workplace requires more than promises. It requires courage, compassion, and the willingness to make hard, immediate decisions to protect the values that matter most. And when that happens, everyone wins.